Thank you, Gina.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, everyone, for being present today. And yes, I'm back, after just about 2 weeks. For those of you who actually had the privilege of listening to my talk the last time, it was more on how we sharpen our brain a bit more better than usual. But today, I will focus more on brain detoxification, and more importantly, how we have worked with Avita to come up with this new invention called NGF, and how it can play a role not just in brain detoxification, although today this is the main focus, but also in the entire nervous system, including the autonomic nervous system. All right, so without further ado, just let me go through what I have to go through today. Just as I mentioned a few weeks back, I think for our brain to function, or for anything to function, most of the time, all right, we have to make sure that we have to take care of the blunt ends of anything. Like, for example, a pencil, right? Why does a pencil get blunted? Because of constant usage, and things can get worn out and can get very, very blunt. So what NGF does, or what we can do for you, is basically providing you with the necessary means, all right, as I explained to you how to do it, to make sure that you can sharpen your brain and your nervous system a bit more better, as well as to make sure that you maintain that functional impact in your brain as well as your autonomic nervous system. The reason why we're focusing on the brain and the nervous system is that, statistics has really shown that 1 in every 7 person in this world, all right, totaling to about $1 billion people in this world suffer from some form of neurological diseases. And even for those of us who are well, who feels that we don't have any form of neurological diseases, we also have to take care of our brain and our nervous system, because that is so important for us to maintain it in the optimum state. Now, before I go into any neurological issues or discussion, I just want to draw a question and ask the audience. How many of you think that what is our maximum lifespan? What is the human maximum lifespan? All right. Now, I think it has been debated before. Some things that, we can live up to about 150 years. That is a very, very, very long time, because most of us, if you can live up to 90 years or even 100 years, it's already considered a very, very long lifespan. But now, I just want to let you know that statistics have shown it that we can live up to 115 years, not 150, not 150, but 115 years. But even that, at 115 years, 115 years, now, that is still a long, long lifespan. How many of us now are only in our 50s and 60s, maybe even 70s? Now that means to say that we still have about a good 40 years, to live. And how are we going to make use of these 40 years? How do we make sure that this 40 years is going to have the greatest quality of life? That is most important. Being alive is not the most important, but being alive and having the best quality of life, that is more important. And that's why today, as we age, all right, we must age not just gracefully, but we must age healthily. Unfortunately, one very, very big challenge for aging is that as we age, chronic disease comes about. Many, many kinds of chronic disease come about. And many of these chronic diseases are related to our brain and nervous system. Now, even today, if you are not aging, that fast. I mean, that you're not aging in the sense that, okay, if you are above 50 years, you're above 60 years. Even for the youngsters, people who are still schooling, for example, most of us have kids, who are in the 20s, in the 30s. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised that, most of them, all right, age much faster than the predecessor. That means to say that for those of you who are already 20 years old, but they are now basically, already in the 30s or 40s. So that is very, 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 very concerning to all of us, because we do not want even, teenagers to age faster than they should be. And it is a fact that the young are aging much faster because of lifestyle, because of even the food, because a lot of times we eat those junk food, we eat foods with hormones, and that actually speed up the growth even in young people. So the next thing I want to discuss is that as part of the aging process, even the accelerated aging process, we suffer from memory loss. How many of you, even though, you may deny it, but we do have lapses in memory loss. So when we do have memory loss, what is the main culprit? What causes memory loss? Is it due to aging alone or not? Well, scientists have been trying to, grapple about this and find, reasons, experiment on it. Yes, memory is not just due to aging alone nowadays. Memory loss could be due to many, many factors. All right, could be genetics and could be many, many others, lifestyle. But most importantly, is about how well you take care of your brain and how well we can achieve. The next thing we want to say is brain detoxification. Because a lot of times our brain are being occupied with too many unnecessary waste, and if it's not detoxed properly, we get memory loss. So that relates to what we're going to discuss today, which is brain detoxification. And as I mentioned to you, it's not just only the old people that have memory loss. Even though now teenagers, there's an increasing percentage of people now having a growing trend of people having what we call fading memory. Now, that brings to a very, very important, I would say, comment or even statement today. Now, each and every one of us, the world is fair, we only have one brain. Every person has only one brain. And if you can see the brain there, there are various functions. You see the diagram there, right? From attention to speech, to smell, to touch, to taste, even for vision, right? And movement coordination, even, how you breathe and, your heart rate, all these things, all right, is part of the brain function. And, just imagine if, let's say, any part of this brain becomes non-functional, and that will affect, all right, basically the function of the whole body. So, importantly to note is that, unlike some parts, some other organs inside our body, whereby there is some level of regenerative ability. Regenerative ability, that means they're able to recover and also to actually replace with new cells and new tissue. The brain is in general non-regenerative. In general, non-regenerative. That means you cannot create new brain cells or nerve cells. So if that is the case, now every one of us has the total responsibility of taking care of our brain. And the thing is that how are we going to maintain that brain? Because, the brain can be quite fragile, can be quite vulnerable if you don't maintain it well. So how do we maintain? That is the question I'm going to pose to every one of you, right? It is a very, very common question, but it's not a question that you can easily answer, right? So now, maybe I just want to let you know that in order for us to maintain our brain, our nervous system, key is to achieve what we call brain detoxification. Brain detoxification means you have to remove all the unnecessary things and toxin, poison from the brain first, right? All the waste, okay? That could potentially, harm your brain, you have to remove them first before you can even talk about adding nutritional components to the brain. Okay? So that brings me to the question on the invention. Because we feel that, brain detoxification is a big issue. Brain detoxification actually affects a lot of people in this world, and including our autonomic nervous system. All right. Now, because of this problem, all right, then that actually is the motivation behind why I decided as a scientist, work with Avita, in collaboration with Avita, to develop a unique, a synergistic formulation comprising of basically brain active substances. Brain active substances. And I will describe to you later on what is this, what are all these brain bioactive extracts, bioactive substances. All right. And one of the main function of this product, of this invention, is on brain detoxification. Right? As mentioned to you, it is very important to do brain detox, but how do we do it? Right? You can easily achieve that by just understanding what the product Avita NGF can do for you. So as you can see from the box of the Avita, all right, basically, it is a synergistic formulation, all right, comprising, of this very premium, what we call bird nest extract. And it's not the only extracts that this invention has. It has actually what we call the purple chokeberry, bacopa, as you can see from the box, sage extract, nattokinase, and beta-glucan. Okay, now how does all these things comes about? What is the relevance of this in relation to the formulation? I'll discuss this to you later. All right, but now just remember that, now we have come up with this invention 5 to 6 years ago, and over the last 5 years, it has impacted a lot of people with a good testimonials, and not just testimonial, but I think it's more importantly is to help people, find good, what we call ways of maintaining their brain through brain detoxification and, maintaining a very strong autonomic nervous system. Now, perhaps, I want to actually give you the underlying mechanisms on how this invention works. Because you must understand that behind an invention or a great invention, there must be some underlying mechanisms on how this mechanism started and how does it work. So basically, the invention started by first understanding that we must have a good what we call grasp of the knowledge relating to the molecular events that happen in nerve cells present in the brain and present in the autonomic nervous system. So what is really happening inside the nerve cell? That is crucial, because for every disease that starts, it all starts from a single nerve cell. So by understanding the molecular events, or even the normalization and intervention of nerve cells, we would understand how we can keep our brain cells or our nerve cells better, and also at the same time prevent diseases. So if you just look at this diagram, I just want all of you to understand, because I'm not going to train you to be scientists, but just understand this very simple concept. Now, inside the nerve cell, there is this thing called the nerve gene. Okay? A nerve gene, or the nerve DNA. So the nerve DNA actually gives rise to a nerve function. So always remember that, for a function to happen inside the nerve cell, it's like a software. You need to have the necessary, what we call a software to make it happen. All right. So in this case, we call this a neural gene, as you can see here. So a neural gene, it can be a good neural gene, it can be a bad neural gene. Okay. But most importantly, the concept is about how we can better activate or what we call turn on those good genes related to neural function, and turn off the bad genes that's related to neural cells malfunction. All right, so it's all about balance. It's all about balance. It's all about having all the good things and removing all the bad things, or reducing or inhibiting those bad events from happening. So that is what, and is central to what NGF is all about. So after understanding that, a basic nerve cell is very dependent on the molecular event within its DNA and its genes, then it is not surprising that, we therefore can actually link neural disease to genetics, or even the DNA that a particular person has. So certain diseases, like neurological diseases, for example, including dementia, for example, including autism, for example, all right, it can be linked to genetics. That means it can be hereditary. That means it can be passed down from our parents to us. Okay, so if it's genetically linked, there is really nothing we can do about it, because we are born with those genes. We can either blessed with good genes or blessed with not so good genes. But nonetheless, okay, it is important for us to identify that, if we are blessed with a certain kind of gene, how are we going to better manage? How are we going to better manage, all right, even though you have inherited bad neural genes? If you have inherited bad neural genes, what are you going to do with it? That is the question, all right? That is also not just a question, but also the answer you want for yourself, all right? But we know that, okay, genetically, it actually causes you to have certain, what we call, as here it was mentioned, an inappropriate function of the gene due to an impaired electrical impulses throughout the brain, throughout the nervous system. Our brain to our nervous system is basically run by electrical impulses. It's like electrical wires. They're electrical wires, like, running all over our body. They are what we call the nerve. The nerves are all running throughout our body. So the thing is that these are electrical impulses. But if those electrical impulses are impaired, then it could lead to a pathological event. Pathological means an event that leads to a disease. Okay? So very simple, all right? Disease that we see in people like Parkinson's, dementia, and even multiple sclerosis can be genetically linked. But if it's genetically linked, then what is the strategy for scientists, all right, or even for drug developers to circumvent that, what we call, genetic problem? Circumvent means to solve that genetic problem. Is it, in the first place, solvable? All right. Now, of course, I'm not saying that we completely solve a genetic issue, but what we can do is to reduce the impact of a lousy gene that is happening inside our body. A lousy gene means a bad gene. We can reduce the impact. We may not be able to remove, but we may be able to reduce. So, all right, as we can see, genetics is a hotly researched topic all over the world. Right, scientists all over the world, they try to understand, the different aspects of neurological disorders, and now, there are very, very high-end diagnostic tools, and even discovery of new targets, meaning new gene, because a lot of genes are still not founded. So now more and more genes are founded. Okay, and we scientists become more and more understand more and more about our brain, because there is still a big black box out there that we do not know much of our brain. But more importantly is that science have allowed us to understand our brain much better. And scientists now has one of the best tools to do that. All right? And it's basically we are deciding on those principles. It means those principles of, how scientists, look at disease and how we can circumvent, or how we can resolve the problem of genetic diseases. Okay, we use those principles in the invention of our Avita NGF. So, I think I just want to say it very, very simply, just to make sure that all of us understand. Okay, very simple. It's just that, every one of us, if we are related to have some genetic brain disorders, that means to say that we, or that those people fail to produce enough of certain protein that influence development and function. That means we may have suffered from a deficiency of a particular protein that is necessary for brain function. That's it, all right, including brain detoxification. We may have certain deficiency of protein that allow us to have proper brain function, brain detoxification. As simple as that, right? That is genetic disease, including autism, and child-related brain diseases. All right, so I just want to mention that, all these kind of diseases, to a lot of doctors, a lot of scientists out there, they may not have the answers. They may not have the answers of what we call cure. Cure is a big word. They may not have the cure for a genetic disease because there's still so much things to understand about our brain. But today, it is not about finding a cure. It is about finding a way on how to reduce the impact of a bad genetic gene related to your nerve and your brain. So that is really the main purpose of NGF. NGF is not a drug. It is not meant to cure, yet at this moment in time, but it is meant to solve what we call the deficiency of certain proteins that is lacking in an individual due to a genetic defect. That is what NGF aims to do. All right, so you can see here, all right, on this diagram is just to let you know that there are various genetic disorders. Scientists already discovered, and they even can identify at which part of the gene, these are very molecular, so I don't want to bore you with that. But because that we already have that kind of foundation, we already know that, okay, what kind of genetic disease is located at what kind of gene locus, and we can now then identify which are the protein that is in deficiency or in abnormal amounts. It can be in excessive amount also. Then we try to balance that. Basically, we use a very, very natural way of balancing. It's all about balancing, all right? If you have too excessive of bad gene, you just reduce it. If you have too deficient of certain good gene, you just increase it. It's as simple as that. That's what NGF, Avita NGF product or invention aims to do. So with this, I just want to highlight to you, this is a diagram, just to let you know, it's like a map. It's like a map of a nerve cell that you can see here. Inside there is a lot of protein, doing its work for the nerve cell. Okay, and this is relating to a Parkinson's disease a gene, all right, a Parkinson's disease gene. So today, scientists may have mapped out, the few proteins that is related to Parkinson's disease. And because we already know what are those proteins, therefore, it is not difficult for us to, replace those 40 proteins or to reduce those 40 proteins. So that is basically what NGF, Avita NGF aims to do. All right. So you can see here whether the color is in green, blue, yellow, especially in green and blue. Those are the protein that is found to be associated with Parkinson's disease. So I'll just show you. So for example, for dementia, it will be another diagram. For autism, it will be another diagram. For multiple sclerosis, it will be another diagram. And we can show that, some of these diseases are really genetically linked. That means they're linked to bad genes. In this case, it's an autism. is relating to an autism. If you don't understand the diagram, that is okay, but it's just to show you that inside the nerve cell of an autistic child, autistic child or children, they are found to be lack of certain, what we call protein called the neuroligin. So that neuroligin is missing in their cell, and therefore they cannot function as normal and they become autistic. So all you need to do is to find out, proteins that can replace neuroligin in the patient or in the child. We may be able to reduce the effect of autism then. All right. Of course, there is still other challenges, but the fundamental problem is to address what is lacking and you replace it with normal copies and amounts. Next, I want to go into the issue on immunology. So immunology is extremely important, and a lot of times is related to what we call detoxification. Detoxification. Immunology is detoxification link. So I explained to you, all right, because as we age, all right, our immune system, including our autonomic nervous system, including the brain, okay, we actually actually can promote what we call microglial senescence. Okay, now there is this word called microglial senescence here. Microglia, you have to imagine that it is like a cell that protects the nerve cell. Understand? It is a cell that protects the nerve cell. Okay, why you need a cell? Why does nerve cell need other cells to protect? Because nerve cells are very vulnerable and very fragile. All right, so it needs what we call a protector cell. And in this case, the microglial cell is the protector cell. So just imagine today, all right, inside the brain there is microglial cells. Okay, and the microglial cells are protecting your nerve cells within your brain. So imagine that, as we age, there is this thing called senescence. Senescence means becomes age and non-functional. And because of this, all right, it drives what we call an event called neuroinflammation. Neuroinflammation means, when the cell does not function normally, it goes into an abnormal mode called inflammation. And inflammation is an event actually primarily aimed to protect you, but if it is in excessive amount, it actually harms you. So when you have too much inflammation, it's not a good thing, because inflammation allows your cell to eat your own cell. Don't know whether you understand what I'm trying to say. Inflammation will promote your own immune cells to eat your own organ cells, including your brain cells. And that is not good. That is not good. Okay, so now we want to see that, with now the advent of technology, lifestyles, and things like that, each and every one of us has very diverse genetic background. Each of us have very different exposure to infection. Now we all know what is COVID, right? COVID infection is just one example of infection. There are many, many other infections that can actually comes into our body, comes into contact of our body, all right? And this could actually influence molecular event or immunological event within our body. It can actually happen inside our body. And what happens is that, right, when our immune system go haywire, then our neural system will also go haywire. First, immune system go haywire. Haywire means it goes into disarray. And then, of course, your nervous system will also go into disarray because of inflammation. And that will lead to neurological disorders. All right. So I just want to encapsulate this slide to say that, first of all, our immune system age. And also coupled by the fact that now we all suffer from diseased metabolism. What is diseased metabolism? It means to say that, each and every one of us don't have a balanced diet, or worse still, due to other causes like infection or even drug usage, it leads to what we call diametabolism. That means your metabolism going into disarray. That means your metabolism is no longer normal. Metabolism is about how the biochemical reactions happen throughout your body, all right, including your diet, metabolism. And of course, we have inflammation. So these three events add up together, it can lead to more and more diseases, more and more risk of getting diseases. So I want to introduce you a new term here called, immunosenescence. Immunosenescence means your immune system go into a aging mode and no longer functional. And there is another thing called inflamed aging. Inflamed aging means you have an abnormal production. As we age, we have an abnormal production of what we call cytokines and adipokines. These are all molecules that can trigger inflammation inside your body. And this, in the normal circumstances, they are good molecules. But when we age, this actually come back and haunt us and actually produces what we call cytokines and adipokines, which is no good for us, and actually starts to harm our nerve cell, starts to harm our autonomic system, starts to harm our brain. And that is when our brain detoxification is so important, because you have to remove the unnecessary inflammation that is happening in the body. Imagine if today your brain is filled with a lot of enemies called the immunoinflammation molecule. Your brain now is filled with inflammation molecule, which is your enemy. What must you do? The first thing you need to do is to remove them, is to remove your enemies. And this can only be achieved by having the right, what we call protein, that is associated with our invention, NGF, Avita NGF. And when you have a right amount of the Avita NGF, you will have no problem about removing all these enemies, these inflammation molecules inside your brain. And because of this, you will recover much better and you have less chance of getting a disease, a neurological disease. So, all right, with aging, microglial cells become senescent. As I mentioned to you, the microglial cells are the protective cell. They become aged, they can no longer protect you. And not only they cannot protect you, but they become even a problem for you. That means they release inflammation molecules to you. And this is the time whereby you really need what we call brain detoxification. Brain detoxification. You need to have ability to remove those inflammation inside your brain. Okay, it's not just removing the waste, but also in removing the inflammation inside your brain. That is important. Okay, so, and of course, as we age, our mitochondria, which play a role in energy providing, because you need energy, all right? Nerve cells need energy, and that actually, drop, and because when it drop, the energy level of your nerves, energy level of the nerve cell drop, that will lead to even more inflammation. So again and again, I just want to let you know that, all right, immunology is very important for you as a brain, because it causes neuroinflammation. And now the key here is to remove neuroinflammation, and in the process, what we call the brain detoxification. Brain detoxification. Okay? So here is just to let you know, right, a very clear way of, how a normal person have good brain detoxification and also good neuroprotection as well as brain detoxification. So in this case, you can see on the left diagram, there is a young and healthy individual. Okay, you have a very good, very healthy microglial cell. The microglial cell is like a protector cell. It protects the neuron from all other events, including inflammation, including your own immune system. Not just the virus, but it also protects you from inflammation. So under normal circumstances, your nerve cell looks very healthy, you can see. But if you look at the right diagram, and you can see that, look, what happened to your nerve cell? The nerve cell is called the neuron cell. What happened? Because now you have what we call an aging microglial cell. That means now the protector cell is no longer able to protect you. And worse still, the protector cell releases inflammation molecules to the environment, and then now the environment has a lot of immune factors, inflammation factors that can now attack, allow your own immune system to attack your own brain. How painful is that? Imagine your own immune system attacking your own brain. Can that even happen? Yes, it could happen. It could happen. As we age, listen carefully, every one of us, as we age, our immune system will attack our own brain cells. So how are we going to reduce that? How are we going to reduce that? All right. Now, I also want to let you know that inflammation does not just start from the brain. Inflammation can start from the gut, your intestine. So from the small intestine, large intestine rather. From the large intestine where there's a lot of bacteria, good bacteria, bad bacteria. But now in this case, we talk about bad bacteria. So when there's a lot of bad bacteria, it leads to what we call inflammation because the body needs to remove the bad bacteria. And there is an overdrive of inflammation. And one of those bad inflammation protein that is formed is called the syncytial alpha syncytial protein. Okay, and this alpha synuclein protein, there it starts to form, and it's what we call a bad protein. It is a bad protein. But under normal circumstances, the bad protein is only present in your intestine. But when there is inflammation, over-inflammation, the bad protein actually can go from migrate from your intestine all the way to the brain, and even open up the blood-brain barrier for the bad protein to go inside the brain. Not just the brain, it also goes into the autonomic nervous system. And when that happens, all right, you have what we call neuroinflammation. You have what we call neurodegeneration. And when that happens, disease come about. And this is a very classic example to show you that Parkinson's disease people, okay, about 70 to 80%, it actually starts from the gut. That means the first problem of the disease starts from the intestine, large intestine, slowly migrate to the brain, leading to Parkinson. All right? So Parkinson is not just a genetic disease, but it is also an immunological disease. Immunological is the brain disease, is the genetic disease. It is also an immunological disease. So if this person, the Parkinson person, all right, is able to do a detox fast enough, then the immunological trigger is triggered by the bad protein. Then if you can remove it fast enough, then you will not have Parkinson. So that's how it is. Or even for existing Parkinson patient, all right, what you can do for existing Parkinson patient, what you can do is that you just need to reduce those inflammation that is inside the brain and causing you to have more damage to your human brain. And it's a progressive disease. Parkinson is a progressive disease. It only can get worse and worse and worse. It will never get better. If you don't take any drugs, you don't take any medicine, Parkinson, it is a debilitating disease. It only can get worse and worse until death. And in fact, it is a death sentence, Parkinson. But it's a slow death sentence. So here, we just want to reiterate that, synuclein means, it is a protein that actually are able to destroy your nerve cell, reducing the function of your nerve cell, okay, by going from the gut to the brain, all right, and then it causes neuroinflammation. That's what we're trying to say here, okay, and it can pass through the blood-brain barrier amazingly. Most of the molecule or most of the disease markers, they cannot pass through the brain. But for this particular bad protein, it can pass through the brain. And that's how Parkinson's disease starts. So, okay, everything is not necessarily about brain inflammation. It all starts from intestine inflammation to systemic and to even neuroinflammation. So all this thing is well documented by scientists. And the best way to really combat these diseases is really to understand how it starts and why it starts. If you can understand how it starts and why it starts, then half the battle is won, isn't it? So this is another diagram just to show you that, there is this cell survival and cell death. All right? So under normal circumstances, right, I just want to draw your attention on the left diagram. The normal circumstances, there is this thing called autophagosome. So let's imagine that there's this word called autophagosome, all right, which is like a rubbish truck. It's just basically come and collect all the rubbish, including the toxic material, including the inflammatory molecule. Inflammatory molecule is toxic, is considered a waste. Inflammation is considered a waste. And you must remove the waste. You must remove the inflammation. So under normal people, you are able to actually form, and there is this thing called fusion. Fusion means it's able to combine with a lysosome, which is an enzyme. So there is an enzyme inside a normal person brain to digest whatever is found in the rubbish truck, which is the autophagosome. So under normal circumstances, then there is what we call the autolysosome, means the waste material will break down, or the inflammation material will break down inside the brain. That is only necessary, and is necessary, and it is important. But for people with problem of what we call brain detoxification, is a classic example. If you look at the right-hand side, a person who cannot do brain detoxification, what will happen? So basically, they also have the autophagosome, they also have the rubbish truck. But it is not able to do a fusion. You can see it's a cross. It's not able to fuse with the enzyme. Or sometimes in certain cases, we don't even have the enzyme. So in any instances, the lacking of the enzyme to digest the poison or the toxin or the inflammation molecule inside the rubbish truck, then what happened? Forever there is no removal of waste. Forever there is accumulation and more inflammation, more and more toxin, more and more poison inside your brain. What will happen to the nerve cell? The nerve cell will have to die because, there is so much waste. There is so much toxin. So the only result is brain cell death leading to brain death eventually. So this is a classic example of brain detoxification. Which class do you want to belong? Do you want to belong to the normal people? Or do you want to belong to those people who have the capsaicin inhibition? In this case, it's an abnormal brain. It's your choice, right? But as we age, we lose the function of normal situation, and we'll go into the right-hand side. And in order for us not to go into the right-hand side, that's why the NGF, Avita NGF invention is so important for you, because it allows you to address the issue. It allows you to have normal brain detoxification. Next, I'd like to draw your attention on growth factors. Basically, when we are young, we have a lot of growth factors because we're all growing. But when we age, all right, we realize that a lot of growth factors, or what we call growth factors related to the different types of nerve cells. Growth factors is like nutrition, all right? So the nutrition to an aging body is less and less. And when it's accessible to the aging body, it's less and less. And as it's less and less, what will happen is that we will go into an irreversible, what we call senescence. Senescence means loss of function. And I mentioned to you, we only have one brain. And when the brain goes into senescence, that's the end of us. So we only have one brain. Okay, the choice of whether you want to regenerate your brain is yours. Because the brain cannot regenerate by itself. The brain cannot be regenerated by itself. It can only be regenerative through certain things that you do to your body. I will explain to you how. But aging deprives you of the growth factors that you need for your nerve cells. And that is this diagram to show you. All right, in order for us to have good cell survival, we need good BDNF. And this BDNF is like nutrient molecule. Could be present in an extract, could be present in an NGF. All right, but the thing is that most of them are present in the pro-BDNF, means, it is in the raw form, which is a toxic form, actually. If it's not converted to the active form, the pro-BDNF, you can see pro-BDNF, if it's not converted to PDNF, then this pro-BDNF is toxic to you. And if it's toxic to you, it will lead to cell death, apoptosis. Next, NGF, same thing, all right? So whatever I'm going to show you here is whether it's NGF, PDNF, GDF, whatever. It is stands for some form of growth factor. It is some form of, because we have different nerve cells. And different nerve cells need different protein, need different nutrient, need different growth factors. Okay, it is the same thing that I explained. Okay, here is another diagram to show you GDNF, which is related to Alzheimer, dementia. Dementia patient has been shown, or even a Parkinson patient, has been shown to have very, very less amount of GDNF. So, what we need to do then, of course, if we understand that if it's established that it is important, then we need to actually replace Parkinson brains or even dementia brain with more of this GDNF. And this could only be present in a purified form, pure forms, extract form, not from any other sources. Okay, so here is just to show you that it is directly linked. For Parkinson's disease, it's directly linked to a lacking or deficiency of GDNF. So what we need to do is to replace GDNF in Parkinson's patient. Okay, here I just want to, quickly go through you that, how we know that, certain protein is lacking in certain disease, certain growth factor is lacking. There is a map. For scientists, we know this, but it's not necessary for you to know. But just to let you know that scientists know. You're not necessary to know. So you just need to depend on what the scientists tell you. So if the scientists tell you that, okay, you need GDNF, if the scientists tell you that you need BDNF, you need NGF, that's why we tell you, because we know that there's a map for us to guide us, right? So that's why I'm going to tell you now. So again, here is, just to show you supporting evidences, scientific evidences to show you that we need extra dietary supplement. We need supplement to help us to overcome brain aging, to overcome brain degeneration. We need to have brain regeneration. So aging leads to blunting of brain function. Again, as I said, blunting of the brain function. Aging causes neurodegeneration. Aging results in less neuroprotection. So these two things. So you have more degeneration, means you lost more function. And not only that, you have less of the protection. And that means more cells will die. More brain cells will die. And remember just now one thing. How many brains do we have? We have only one brain. And once the brain is gone, it is gone. And most of the time it's irreversible, most of the time. So it's important for us to protect it, to maintain it while it is functional. And I think here I just want to let you know, again, how does the birth of Evita NGF comes about? Because we want to let you know that we want to enable you, every one of us, whether you are sick, you have Parkinson, you have dementia, or whether you are well, we want to help you to repair the effects of aging, to repair the effects of inflamed cell, to repair the effects of injured cell. That happens every day, every second. And it helps you to restore the function of your brain because there's only one brain. And once the function is gone, then it's gone. It helps you to connect it better with your autonomic nervous system. Although today, we didn't talk really about autonomic nervous system because the focus is on brain detoxification, but it's equally important. It's the same principle. It happens for the brain, it happens for your autonomic nervous system as well. And of course, it activates your autonomic active cells. So now allow me to run quickly, right? And to say that, among the NGF product, why is it we call it a synergistic formula? Because it's not about 1 + 1 = 2. It's about 1 + 1 = 11. 1 + 1 equals to 100. It is the synergistic effects of individual components combined together to give you a multiplier effect. And that is why it's important. So you cannot just eat ingredients in isolation. You must eat them together. And the only thing that actually combine them together is in the product, Evita NGF. But I need to let you know the individual components. So one of them is edible bird's nest. And it's proprietary because it is the way the extract is extracted from the bird's nest. It's not just bird's nest, but it's extract, bioactive components that can give you a genetic effect, that can give you an immunological effect, a benefit. It can also give you a regenerative benefit. Remember just now I told you, in order for us to have good brain, to maintain a good brain, there are genetical way, there is immunological way, and also there is regenerative way. So why is it so? Why is it that we use bird's nest as a source of all these what we call bioactive molecules? Because there is a studies from NUS, a National University of Singapore, to show that you can see that on the left-hand side, the diagram, right, among many foods studied, more than 100 types of food, edible bird's nest, EBN, as you can see from the first column, it has the highest number, what we call concentration of amino acids, not number, it's concentration of amino acid, among all the food studied. You can see that it's a 439.15, easily outperform all the rest of the food, including milk that we drink, the egg that we eat every day, including infant formula. Again, of course, to make up what we call the bioactive molecule, besides the protein, there is also this simple sugar. Not glucose, not diabetic sugar. It is our simple sugar. This simple sugar may not cause diabetic. Even for that, you need good sugar. You need good sugar, all right? And edible bird's nest has very high content of sugar, all right? It actually ranks among highly also among those foods that we studied. Okay, the only one that is probably higher is infant formula, because infant formula is for growing child. You need a lot of energy, and therefore you need a lot of sugar. But other than that, in order for us to form bioactive molecules needed for neural function, you need good sugar, you need good protein, and EBN is a good source. Edible bird nest is a good source of all those protein and sugar. Here is just to let you know how does the sugar and the protein, amino acid combine together to give you what we call the bioactiveness of the molecule. All right, so this is just to let you know a diagram to show you how does bird nest extracts helps you in the cellular function. Right, you don't need to know how does it do, but I just want to let you know, we scientists, we already know how is bird's nest bioactive molecule going to help you, going to benefit you from the genetic, from the immunological, as well as from the regenerative aspect. And of course, you have purple chokeberry. Purple chokeberry is shown to give you genetic and immunological benefit. If you really want to study the science, come and have a lesson with me. Okay, I can bore you with all the scientific details, all right, scientific papers on how purple chokeberry can give us genetic and immunological benefits. And you have Bacopa extracts, which is good for genetic, good for immunological, good for regenerative benefits, especially for memory. All right, for people who want good memory, Bacopa extract, it is a very, very good bioactive ingredient. And if it's found inside this synergistic formula, it will even enhance the effect on its own. Sage extract, very good for regenerative benefit. Okay, shown to have some benefit on Alzheimer's disease, memory loss, depression. Okay, and of course in metabolism in general. Natto kinase, very well known in Japan, more well known for heart, but there's also now increasing evidence to show that it is important for Alzheimer's disease, okay, in an immunological benefit. All right, immunological means in a way, it can reduce neural inflammation and brain detoxification. Beta-glucan, another one that is shown to give good immunological benefit. Again, as long as immunological benefit, you can say is related to brain detox. Brain detox, it is all about immunological benefits. So that is how is a lab, or how we actually come up with all those extracts. We did not just take the powder and then we take the plant and then we grind it to powder. It's not as simple as that. You have to go through a proprietary extraction processes, and that is done in our lab. All right, and it is proprietary. It is done in our lab. It is done in Singapore, and we are very proud to have those proprietary extraction processes. Next, I'd like to talk to you that okay, there's the same context, that in order for a brain to function, okay, I want to let you know that the NGF solution, which is the Avita NGF, to brain decline, to nerve decline, it is all about activating the gene promotion, the gene promoting survival of the nerve cell, as compared to the gene that promote cell death. So it's about a balance. It's about cell survival versus cell death. So if you can actually promote more of cell survival gene than cell death gene, then you are bingo. you actually will have a regenerative brain. You will have, in general, a regenerative brain rather than a neurodegrading brain, neurodegeneration or neurodegradation brain. So here is an example from a cell level, in vitro level, to show you, okay, evidences, that, if you have a normal brain, all right, with NGF, for example, or Parkinson brain cells with NGF, normal brain without NGF, Parkinson's with NGF, and it's very clear. Evidence show that the NGF solution, which is Avita NGF, protects normal nerve cells better than without the NGF product. So for normal people, there is a clear benefit. And for Parkinson patient, there is also a very clear benefit. So whether you are normal people or whether you are Parkinson patient or even with other diseases, NGF can help you. NGF definitely can help you because it has a very clear neuroprotective function as well as a neuroregenerative function. So here I just want to show you the difference between proliferation and differentiation. Okay, now in our mature brain, there is what we call specialized brain cell. We have many types of specialized brain cell. We call them, they have already passed through what we call university. I'll give you a layman term, primary school and university. All right, so in our brain, all the cells are in university stage. That means they are no longer primary school, they are university stage. But then the thing is that, when there is an injury, there is a need for you to go back to the basis, which is the primary school. It is only when you are in the primary school you can generate and proliferate much more faster than specialized. Because specialized cells cannot divide fast. Only when it's young cells you can divide fast, or what we call neurostem cell. So you must have a good combination of specialized cell as well as stem cell. All right, as well as stem cell in your brain as well as your autonomic nervous system. So that is where proliferation and differentiation, you have to understand. All right, you need both. You don't just need specialized cell, but you need proliferative cell. You don't need just differentiated and specialized cell. You also need proliferative cell. That means actively dividing cell. You need actively dividing cells. So, all right, just want to let you know, in order for us to recover, to repair, you need cell proliferation. You do not need cell differentiation. So when you have a Parkinson disease, what you need most is not more of the brain specialized cell. You need more of the, what we call the stem cells, the progenitor cells, more than the specialized cell. Because specialized cells, there is a limited amount. But if you have proliferative cell, you can keep on multiplying and multiply and multiply. New cell to replace those damaged numbers. You understand? Or those injured numbers. It's important. It's important. And that's what we call regenerative. If you do not have the ability to replace and to repair, then there is no regenerative potential in your brain. So here, we have shown a diagram to show you, right? Basically, first, if you take NGF, if you take Vita NGF, for example, there is a very clear evidence that you see here from the green column that it is very close to the medical standard, which is an ability for you to proliferate your brain cells. Proliferate your brain cells. Yeah, so here is a diagram to show you, okay, the ratio between proliferation and differentiation. So under normal circumstances, we have very good differentiation, but we don't have proliferation. So in this case, if you see the NGF on the center lane, you have a very clear of, the Ki67 over the beta tubulin. So the one that is in the purple one is called proliferation, and the other one is called differentiation. So you must have more proliferation over differentiation, in other words. And only when you have NGF, it allows you to do it. Because if you don't have that, you have no regeneration power inside your brain. So here is to show you that, under normal circumstances, you go through a cell cycle. It's like a nerve cell. The nerve cell, actually, when it becomes specialized or it becomes differentiation, it exits. You see the word G0. G0 means it exits from the cell cycle, and if the moment it exits from the cell cycle, it's like it becomes a university graduate. It cannot go back to the primary school already. That means it stops dividing, in other words. It stops dividing. And when it stops dividing, means you stop regenerating. You cannot regenerate anymore. Also, when you cannot regenerate anymore, the brain will be in trouble when a disease strikes or when an injury strikes. So it is important for us to have replacement. And in order for us to have replacement, there must be proliferation. That means the cell must go back to the cell cycle and start dividing. So here is very clear cut here, the left hand side and the right hand side. So we want to stop the differentiation. We want to have more proliferation. Under normal circumstances, when a person goes into a disease like stroke, depression, anything else, okay, we stop proliferation. So when there's no proliferation, then there is no new cell to divide and give you new nerve cell. No more new nerve cell. And when that happens, there is no way you can recover from a disease. And even if you are well, you want to maintain a high level of stem cell inside your brain because you want to be constantly young and keep on proliferating rather than just having a high dose of specialized cells. So here is just an example to show you that, with the evidence of NGF, the product, Evita NGF, it shows very clear proliferation over differentiation or specialization, and that is important. Okay, so with that, I just want to let you know that brain detoxification is extremely important, and it cannot go away without having a good method, okay, especially in this new invention called Evita NGF. So with Evita NGF, you have what we call brain detoxification. You actually addresses genetic issues related to brain disorders and nervous system disorder. You actually have immunological benefit. You actually have regenerative benefit. With all these benefits all present in this invention, so I just hope that every one of you can take advantage of this invention and help many more people, not just people who are sick, not just the 1 billion people, but the other 6 billion people. Everyone in this world should be exposed to NGF, should be exposed to this Evita NGF. All right? So if you think that you have benefited from this product, I just hope that you can spread the good news around to the friends that you love most, to people around the world that need this product. Thank you very much, and I'll take questions from the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Lim, for such a fantastic sharing. And indeed, later on, Professor Lim, we will be sharing some of these fantastic stories of NGF across the region. But before we do so, we have room for a few questions, and these are the questions that were sent to us earlier, even before the session. I know we have quite a number of questions that are flooding our chats at the moment. Don't worry, our staff will also post the link, and then we will get back to all those questions as soon as we can. But let me address some of the questions, Professor Lim, that has been sent to us prior for tonight. First is a question from Amy Chong. She is a breast cancer patient. Due to chemotherapy, it has caused numbness in the fingers and palms, as well as in the sole of her feet. So her question is, would NGF be able to help in the repair of such nerve cells? Professor Lim?
Thank you, Gina, for the question, and Amy for the question. If you have listened to me discuss on the slides earlier on, it is very clear to us that the product of Evita NGF, it is invented to specifically repair and regenerate damaged nerve cell. All right. Although it is not, I would say, shown in a very empirical way. Okay, but it is definitely showing scientifically that without a shadow of a doubt, it can help people to repair damaged nerve cells. Okay, now you've been taking Celogen, which is a great cell regeneration product. It can complement with NGF, which actually specifically target nerve cells. All right, so my answer to you is that take NGF in good moderation, and I feel that it can actually help you in your cell therapy as a complementary approach. All right, so I want to encourage you to actually take this product for a certain period of time, minimum of about 3 months, to see some significant, meaningful impact. Okay, I'm not saying that this product is not effective after 1 month. I'm not saying that. Some people will experience good effect even after 2 weeks. But because, you know, every one of us, we are built differently. Some will take longer, some will take what we call shorter. But in the general rule of thumb, 3 months should be sufficient for you to see very clear effect, and you will see that you have a lot of nerve cells being repaired. Okay?
All right, thank you so much. We have another question here sent to us earlier. If a child of 2 years suffers from fits, which the doctors are unable to identify the cause, can he be given NGF for such condition, Professor Lim?
Yes, thank you again for the question. Now, first of all, we really have to understand, okay, that fits, all right, it may not be well understood medically yet. So that's why a lot of doctors are not able to identify the cause. Or even scientifically, it takes time. But here we are not to actually find the solution to the cause. Okay, what we want to do is really to help people suffering from the impact as a result of fits. I don't know whether you understand. So even though we do not know the origin or what is the reason causing fits, but it's important for us to see how we can address and reduce the impact, the negative impact brought out by fits. And NGF is invented precisely for that. It may not cure the person from fits, as I mentioned. It may or may not, it depends on time. But at this moment in time, if you were to take NGF diligently, then you will see that your child will no longer suffer from fits. That is what I want to tell you. Okay? Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have another question from a mother. Can NGF help with overactive children? I think many of us mothers can relate to that. I also have overactive children. So yeah, can NGF help them with overactive children, Professor Lim?
Thank you. Thank you for the question again. Well, I just want to let you know, I'm also the father of hyperactive children. But it really depends on how you define hyperactive. It's very subjective. But NGF, okay, as I mentioned just now, okay, it is a product with a composition of bioactive composition that is able, it's not a single molecule. It is a composition of molecule. But inside the composition, there are what we call relevant molecules that can potentially calm down children. Because anything that causes hyperactive, it must be related to the nerve. It must be related to what we call nerve physiology. What is nerve physiology? Nerve physiology is about the nerve response, all right, to external factors. All right, so if you understand that what are the things that can cause, what are the external factors that can cause nerve to respond, it can be either way. It can either make it more active or make it less active. Remember just now I mentioned, there are genes. There are hyperactive gene. That is also what we call the hypo. Hypo means lower. Hyper means over. Hypo means underactive. So the key here is to find the balance and to activate the hypoactive, which is the underactive genes inside the children in the long run. So if you ask me this question, then yes, because NGF could actually bring about a balance. So if you are under a hypoactive mode, we can bring down from hyperactive to less than hyperactive. I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Hey, that's good news to parents out there. Okay, we have another question here, Professor Lim. Who and how can we consume NGF? Who do you recommend it to?
This is not a medicine. This is what we call a functional food supplement. So if it is a functional supplement, it is applicable to almost everyone, okay, barring what we call maybe an infant. All right, so I think for any child above 2 years old, provided that she can swallow, until to any person who can be until 115 years old, I think that is applicable. So who can take? Almost everyone. For pregnant mothers, you take in your own choice. From scientific point of view, even pregnant mothers should be able to take. Okay, but the choice is yours. We don't want to promote actively to pregnant mothers. But other than that, all right, is there any counter indication? This is a food. All right, so I cannot say for sure that 100% of the people can take it. It's just like rice. It's just like milk. It's just like seafood. Some of us are allergic to seafood, to milk. Am I right? Does that mean to say that milk or even seafood, most of the people cannot take? So I cannot say that 100% of the people can take this, but I can say that almost everyone can take it, subject to the fact that you are not hypersensitive to any components of the NGF ingredients. But the ingredients that we have used so far has not shown to have any hypersensitivity on anyone. So I think I can say that almost everyone can take this product. How to take this product? So we actually devised a 3-month program. All right, you take a 3-month program, and each day, all right, normal people just take 1 capsule a day. Okay, should be taken at night, all right, after dinner or even before the sleep. Okay, so that is how you take it. For people with some problems or health issues, any health issue, okay, then you take 2 a day. All right. For more serious people, right, for people with very serious Parkinson, dementia, even multiple sclerosis, for example, then you can actually take 4 capsules a day. For people with kidney problem, for example, then are they suitable? Although this product is a high protein product, but it's not really on protein. It is on peptide. It is on small peptide, which can be easily handled by the kidney as well. So even for kidney patient, I think you are okay in general, just to take 1 or 2, even 4, but not more than 4. All right. Then other group of people like young children with autism or dialectic or whatever problem, they also can take. Okay, maybe you can start with 1 a day, then followed by 2. As I say again, do not go more than 4 per day. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Lim. I think you're going to be very busy over the next few days. There's a lot of questions. So we're going to send it to you. And we're very glad that you are with us to explain further about NGF and brain detoxification. Thank you so much, Professor Lim, for spending your time with us. And then we hope to see you again very soon here in Avita.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Lim.